Sub-Commander Keth Dravn had conquered 14 worlds. He had received flowers on 3 of them, screaming surrender on 6. Silence, the best kind, on the remaining 5. He had a wall in his quarters aboard the Ascendant Claw, where he kept a small token from each victory. A crystallized atmosphere sample. A pressed flower. A child's toy, abandoned in the rush to flee. He expected a 16th token from this mission. Earth, 3rd planet, yellow star, unremarkable system on the outer spiral of the Keth-dominated galaxy, or soon to be dominated, pending the paperwork. The Keth Dominion had been watching this particular species for 11 years of standard galactic time. They had drones in the upper atmosphere, passive sensors on every continent. They had analyzed, cataloged, and ultimately dismissed. Dominant species, Homo sapiens. Bipedal, soft-skinned, no natural armor, no venom, no echolocation, no sermilvision. Average lifespan, by Dominion reckoning, approximately 42 standard cycles. Population, 8 billion. Technology, primitive interstellar capability, barely achieved. Weapons, projectile-based. Threat assessment. Dravn remembered reading the threat assessment during his briefing. He had actually laughed. Threat level, minimal. Recommended conquest window, 72 standard hours. His laughing stopped somewhere around hour 4. It started with the weather. The Ascendant Claw dropped from orbit above what the humans called the North American continent, specifically over a flat agricultural region the locals had named, with characteristic lack of imagination, Kansas. Dravn had selected it deliberately. Open terrain, sparse population, easy control of sight lines. Textbook landing zone. What he had not accounted for was the funnel cloud. Sir, Tactical Officer Mean Vass appeared at his elbow, her secondary eyes twitching with discomfort. We are detecting a rapidly rotating atmospheric phenomenon. Wind speed at the vortex is approximately. I see it. The tornado was, by any objective measurement, magnificent. A column of churning gray-black air, nearly 2 kilometers wide at the base, dragging an entire farmstead, barn, silo, tractor, and what appeared to be a significant number of livestock, into the sky with casual, terrible indifference. It was moving toward their position at 60 kilometers per hour. Dravn stared at it. The Ascendant Claw was an interstellar warship. It had survived plasma barges. It had punched through the moon shields of the Vera Collective. It had, once, accidentally flown through the corona of a small star and emerged with only moderate hull scoring. He still ordered a repositioning burn. Later, he would tell himself it was the tactically correct call, that there was no reason to risk the ship over a weather event. What he did not say, what he would never say, was that the tornado had looked angry. They repositioned to a coastal region. Europe, specifically the island the humans called Great Britain. Damp, cold, overcast, suitable. The cataloging teams went down first. Standard procedure. Small reconnaissance units, cloaked, observing local population behavior before first contact. Dravn had done this on 12 of his 14 conquests. You learn the species before you speak to them. Understand their rhythms. Find the cracks. What Science Officer Pelin Soth brought back from the field was not a standard report. She stood in the briefing room looking like she'd seen a ghost. A concept Dravn only understood academically, but one which suddenly seemed very apt. The food, she began. What about it? Sir, this species. She paused, collected herself. This species has divided its planet into approximately 200 political territories. In the past 100 standard cycles alone, they have fought each other in 2 conflicts so severe that their own historians refer to them as world wars. They have deployed weapons capable of irradiating entire cities. They have, at various points, deliberately poisoned their own atmosphere, their own water supply, and their own food chain. She looked down at her datapad. They're aware of all of this. They track it obsessively. They argue about it constantly. That's consistent with our models. A fractious, self-destructive. They also eat things that should kill them. Dravn stopped. I am sorry. Soth pulled up a hollow. It showed a human at a table, consuming what appeared to be a deep-fried spherical object. This dish contains enough saturated lipids to cause cardiac arrest in a Dreth elder. The human consumed 7 of them, and then ran a competitive athletic event. She swiped. A new image. A human eating something identified as a Carolina Reaper pepper. This plant produces a compound called capsaicin. In sufficient quantities, it causes tissue damage, respiratory distress, and temporary neurological disruption in virtually every species that consumes it. She paused. They breed it for fun. They hold competitions to see who can eat the most. The winners are celebrated. The room was quiet. They put it in their children's food, Soth added, almost to herself. The children cry, and then ask for more. First contact was supposed to be on Drav's terms. It was not. A human found one of the cloaked drones on the 4th day. Specifically, a human adolescent of approximately 16 standard years, male, wandering through a field at roughly 2 in the morning for reasons the surveillance logs did not make clear. He had tripped over the drone. It was the size of a large fruit and should have been invisible in the grass, and instead of fleeing, had picked it up. He had looked at it for approximately 3 seconds. Then he had pulled out a small rectangular communication device, taken a photograph, and uploaded it to something called Reddit. Within 6 hours, 4.2 million humans had seen the image. The comment thread Soth read aloud to the command staff was, Drav decided, the most unsettling document he had encountered in his military career. Elmeo, what is that? Bro found a spy drone in a field. Classic Kansas. Sir, that is absolutely an alien device. I'm calling it now. If aliens are watching us, they must be absolutely terrified, honestly good. Let them see what we're working with. We eat ghost pepper for fun, my brother in Christ. They are not ready. They know. Mean Vass said slowly. They know they're being watched. And they are. She searched for the word. Amused? Confident, Soth corrected quietly. They are confident. Drav ordered a deep dive on human history. Full archival pull. Everything the passive drones had collected over 11 years of observation. He read for 9 hours straight. He had conquered species that had never experienced war. Species that had resolved their conflicts through collective agreement, through biological imperatives toward peace, through simple geography that kept their populations isolated and therefore non-competitive. Humans have been fighting each other for 300,000 years. Not metaphorically, not symbolically. Constantly. Tribes against tribes. Kingdoms against kingdoms. Empires against empires. They had invented weapons, and then invented better weapons, and then invented weapons so terrible that using them would end the species entirely, and had managed through some combination of luck, diplomacy, and what Drav could only describe as spite, to not use them. Yet, but the fighting wasn't the part that got under his skin. It was what they did between the fighting. Every time they burned something down, they built it back. Every time a civilization collapsed, another one rose in the ruins. Every time a plague swept the planet, and there had been many, the survivors adapted, and the population grew. They had lost 1/3 of their entire species to a single disease in the 14th century. Historians called it the Black Death. Drav expected to find records of societal collapse, generational despair, civilizational retreat. What he found instead were records of the Renaissance, an explosion of art, architecture, science, and philosophy that began approximately 100 years after the plague. They had lost 1/3 of everyone they knew, and their response, eventually, was to paint the Sistine Chapel. What is wrong with them, Drav said. It was not a question. He might have recovered from the history. He might have recovered from the food. He recovered from neither, because Soth's team then submitted their report on Earth's fauna. The dominant megafauna of this world, the apex predators, the creatures that had shaped the evolutionary pressure under which Homo sapiens had developed, were not gentle. A planet's wildlife tells you everything about what it takes to survive there. Drav knew this. He had used it as an assessment tool his entire career. The planet's oceans contained animals large enough to swallow Dominion soldiers whole. Its jungles harbored creatures that could see in complete darkness, move without sound, and had evolved to consume things several times their own body mass. Its deserts produced organisms that survived by poisoning anything that touched them. There were birds, Birds with wingspans that could shadow a standard ground vehicle. And the humans had looked at all of this and domesticated about 30% of it. They have an animal, Soth said, her voice gone slightly flat with the particular tone of someone reading a document they cannot fully believe. Descended from a pack predator, they bred it over thousands of years specifically to be a companion. She looked up. They sleep with it. In their beds. They celebrate its birthday. They dress it in small garments. It has a name. Many of them. In the observation samples we collected, she pulled up footage of a human lying on a sleeping surface, a medium-sized four-legged animal pressed against its back, both of them motionless. The animal's name is Biscuit. Dravn stared at the footage for a long time. They took a predator, he said. Yes. And they made it Biscuit. Yes, sir. He thought about what 300,000 years of evolutionary pressure had produced. A species that looked at the galaxy's dangers and saw raw material. Dravn filed his report to High Command on the 17th day. It was not the report anyone expected. 2. High Command, Keth Dominion First Expansion Fleet from Subcommander Keth Dravn, IWS Ascendant Claw-Re, Earth Conquest Assessment. Urgent revision. I am formally recommending suspension of all conquest operations regarding the third planet of the Sol system. The Dominion's threat assessment of this species is critically flawed. I will be brief. The species designated Homo sapiens evolved on what I am classifying, effective immediately, as a Class 7 death world. 300,000 years of selection pressure under conditions of extreme environmental hostility. Atmospheric toxins, gravitational stress, endemic predation, disease load, and sustained intraspecies conflict have produced an organism that is not, in any meaningful sense, comparable to any species the Dominion has previously encountered. They are not dangerous because of their technology. Their technology is primitive. They are not dangerous because of their numbers. 8 billion is manageable. They are dangerous because of what they are. What 300 millennia of near-extinction events have made them. They eat things that should kill them and call a sport. They domesticate apex predators and name them Biscuit. They destroy their civilization and rebuild it with art. I watched a human realize our surveillance drone was in his field. He took a photograph and made a joke. We're not the most dangerous thing this species has ever faced. We are not even close, and they know it. I have reviewed the historical record in full. I have one relevant data point to share with High Command. This species has, in the past 200 years alone, survived 2 world wars, 3 global pandemics, an ongoing ecological catastrophe of their own making, and the sustained psychological weight of knowing they possess weapons that could end all life on their planet. And they still go to work on Monday. I am not recommending retreat out of cowardice. I am recommending it because the Dominion has never, in 400 years of expansion, attempted to conquer a species that has never, not once, actually been conquered. Not by disease, not by famine, not by each other, not by time. I do not believe we will be the first. Recommendation: full withdrawal. Reclassify Earth as a restricted observation zone. Under no circumstances initiate hostilities. Subcommander Keth Dravn, IWS Ascendant Claw-Day 17, Earth Orbit. High Command, read the report. They sent back 3 words. Proceed as planned. Dravn stood on the bridge of the Ascendant Claw and read those 3 words for a long time. Then he went to his quarters, looked at his wall of tokens. The crystallized atmosphere. The press flower. The child's toy. He thought about what token he would bring back from Earth. He couldn't think of one. For the first time in his career, he couldn't picture winning. He filed a second report. It was longer. It included the footage of the tornado, the Reddit thread, the full history of the Black Death and the Renaissance, the report on the capsaicin competitions, 12 hours of drone footage of the animal called Biscuit, sleeping peacefully against its human. He titled it, "They are not afraid of U.S. They should be afraid of U.S. They are not." High Command did not respond. The fleet dropped from orbit on day 23. The humans had, by that point, already tracked every ship, every cloaked drone, every patrol pattern. 17 days of Reddit threads, scientific papers, and what appeared to be a globally coordinated citizen mapping project had produced a real-time tracking chart of the entire Dominion fleet, more accurate than the Dominion's own navigation logs. Someone had named the fleet's flagship Gerald. Gerald was trending. The humans were making memes. The invasion lasted 11 days. Dravn survived. Not all of his crew did. He was the one who transmitted the cease communication signal. He was the one who pulled the Ascendant Claw back to the jump point. He was the one who watched, from a safe distance, as the remaining Dominion ships, 47 of the original 200, limped out of the system. He filed his final report from the jump point. It was 2 sentences. The assessment was wrong. Do not go back. He had 1 token from Earth. He hadn't taken it from a battlefield, or a ruin, or a monument to Dominion glory. It had been left in the airlock of the Ascendant Claw by persons unknown sometime during the retreat. A small object, soft, worn, the shape of an animal, 4 legs, floppy ears, button eyes. A child's toy. On the bottom, in the small hand of a human child, someone had written 2 words in permanent marker. We noticed. Dravn hung it on the wall. It was the only token he kept for the rest of his life.